Welcome all to the Pro Football Radio Podcast. This is your co-host, Jay Chima, with my co-host, Brandon DePuma Silva. Sir, how are you?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. We're what is it? Like 2 days out from opening night on Thursday, and I can't get here soon enough. I am beyond excited.
Oh, yes. It is week one of the NFL season, sir. This is one of my favorite times of the year before NFL season kicks off. I think we can all agree I have never needed the NFL more in my life. I think 2020 has been that kind of year where any little hope and the NFL coming back is welcome news.
Oh, for sure, for sure. It's Christmas in September at this point, and yeah, man, it couldn't get here fast enough. And even if they don't finish a full season, just knowing that at least we're going to get week one starting Thursday, and we got a pretty jam-packed slate coming Sunday, and with Monday Night Football, I'm excited. This is everything that everybody just needed. With everything that's been going on in 2020 right now, any little bit will be greatly appreciated at this point.
That is true, man. All right, so podcast 58, it's going to be all football, wall to wall. We're going to start off with discussing who we think is going to make the playoffs this year. Both myself and Puma will give you our AFC, NFC playoff contenders, and then from there, we'll talk about who's going to get to the AFC, NFC championship games, and then from there, we'll talk about the Super Bowl winners. This is essentially our official picks for the year. After that, we're going to jump into a second topic, which is going to be the three quarterbacks we have to keep an eye out for this year, where not in the positive light, more in the negative light, who we think really needs to step it up this year, who we think we know is kind of on their last legs. And then from there, we're going to jump into picking some games for week one. We're going to dissect the Thursday night game between Houston and KC. We're going to jump into Dolphins-Patriots game on Sunday. We'll also talk about the Baltimore Ravens and the Browns going head-to-head. We'll jump into talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the New Orleans Saints, the Cowboys versus Rams on Sunday night, and then we'll quickly wrap it up with the Monday Night Football games as well. So quite a bit to get to. Are you excited, Puma?
Yeah, I'm excited, and I mean, right off the bat, Jay. I mean, we got breaking news that I know is going to affect the playoff picture for the AFC, and it's definitely going to affect my picks, and it may also affect the pick for Monday Night Football. If I could talk about that real quick.
Go for it, man.
But
You're like Adam Schefter out here.
Yeah. We're breaking news around here. So, folks, right before we actually started recording tonight's episode, I got a notification via Twitter from Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo of NFL Media. And I guess to practice today, Broncos linebacker, pass rusher extraordinaire Von Miller suffered what they're calling a severe lower leg injury that could potentially knock him out for the entire season. And these guys are slated to play the second game on Monday Night Football. And this is a team with high playoff hopes. And this defense, if he's out, they just had a massive blow to their defense, to their playoff picture, because this is a tough AFC to begin with. And they're in one of the hardest, not hardest divisions, but a division that is run by Kansas City. So if they were going to have any chance of possibly getting a wild card, they needed all hands on deck, and they might lose the biggest fish of them all in Von Miller for the year.
Yeah, that's you're right, man. Spot on. That is some terrible news for Denver Broncos. And usually when they say lower leg injury and the fact that he might be out for the year, that's with a degree of confidence I can say is probably going to be a ruptured or torn Achilles.
Yeah.
Usually when they say upper leg, it's more the knee and the quad. But lower leg, it's ankle, Achilles, and usually ankle, injuries don't, put you out for the year. But an Achilles rupture or tear is probably going to be a season-ending injury. And spot on, you're right, man. When you've got to contend with Kansas City, twice a year, you've got to have all your defensive weapons, and this is a major blow for Denver Broncos, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, this defense had high hopes. They were getting Bradley Chubb back. He missed last year with an injury. They lost Chris Harris Sr. he left in free agency to go to the Chargers, and I mean, man, like it sucks because I was expecting, and I kind of still am, but they definitely took a giant hit on the playoff picture. I was expecting them to take the big leap forward, and I think Von Miller was actually going into a contract year next year. So him getting hurt, that's not going to help anybody, especially help his cause with trying to get a contract extension to play out the rest of his career as a Bronco. And damn it, Vaughn,
Damn.
damn.
Do
But
your what's that thing you say? Damn boy, is that what you say?
damn boy, he hurt, boy. Bob Miller's hurt. Damn.
Oh my God. How
Yeah.
many beers have you had?
No, I'm halfway through, man. I'll say this much: like it was hot at work because I have a coworker that the AC. It's like there's no middle ground. It's either if it's on, it is the Antarctica. Everybody's in an igloo, or if it's hot, if it's off, it's the face of the friggin' sun. And we had it off today, and we have the AC off at the house because we were cooking steak before recording. So it's a little hot. I'm a little loopy. I didn't have a whole lot to eat today, and this beer may or may not be going straight to my head right now. So this is gonna be a fun podcast today.
Nice little Bad Sons action, right?
Oh yes, sir. Local. Gotta drink local. Support the local business. Bad Sons.
Very nice, very nice. All right, cool. Well, let's jump right into it and discuss the playoff teams. Every year before the season starts, myself and DePuma like to get our official picks out there. Most of the time we're wrong, but it's all in fun, right? So let's start with the AFC. This year we have 7 playoff teams, so we got to keep that in mind. And I'm going to rattle off my 7 teams real quick, and I'll give you their records that I predict. I'm going to have the Chiefs being the number 1 seed with a 13-3 record. I got the Ravens at 11-5, the number 2 seed. The number 3 seed, I got the Colts at 11-5. The number 4 seed, I got the Bills at 10-6. The first wild card spot, I got the Steelers at 10-6. I got the Texans as the second wild card spot at 9-7, and I got the Browns as the final wild card spot at 9-7. So I have 3 teams from the AFC North getting in, and I had quite a bit of a debate within my head, putting this list together, trying to see if the Browns are going to get in. But I think with all that power on the offensive end and Stefanski providing more structure to Baker Mayfield in that offense, I think they'll sneak in.
Oh, for sure. I like those picks too, and I mean, I'm with you. I have the Bills making the playoffs. I have them winning the AFC East. Baltimore, I still expect them to win the AFC North. The Colts, I liked everything that they did. They got Phillip Rivers in a system he's familiar with, to be able to throw the ball a little bit more. It's still Kansas City's division to lose at this point for the AFC West. And I had the Steelers as a wild card team as well. The Browns as a wild card team, and is it 3 wild card teams this year?
Yeah, so essentially it's 4 division winners and then 3 wild card teams. So there's going to be 7 teams per conference getting in.
Right. So I'm still going to go by my pick that I had a couple of episodes ago with the Broncos being a wild card team.
Even with Von Miller being out now?
Even with the Von Miller injury, I still have them being a wild card team, but it is an uphill battle at this point. I think Drew Lock is going to take the next leap forward, and I think Pat Shurmur, he's going to bring his offense that he ran in Minnesota over to Denver and take the offense out of the hands of Vic Fangio. Let's just be real. He is a defensive coach, so the offense side of the ball isn't his forte. And I think you're going to see a little bit more involvement from Noah Fant and the kid they drafted. Forget his name, but it was out of Missouri as well. Drew Lock has a good relationship with them. They were teammates back at the University of Missouri. So I think you're going to see a little bit more tight end action and stretch the field. And I like what they did in the draft, but with the Von Miller injury, it's definitely going to be more of an uphill battle. I think that they'll just get in as the final wildcard team. Yeah, listen,
and I would tend to agree with you there, but I think the issue here is, Drew Lock, I'm not sold on him. Yeah, he played great down the stretch last year. I think this is the year he has to take that next step. and in regards to being a division where you got to score a bunch of points, you're going to have to go up and score 40, 35, 40 points just to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think he has that in him. So he might sneak in, but now with the issue with Von Miller and him, Von Miller potentially being out for the year, that might kind of hamper their abilities.
Right, for sure.
Moving on to the NFC, let's run through 1 through 7 for me. Number one overall seed, and I know this is no surprise to you. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers
There we go.
at 12-4, winning the division and getting the number one seed. I have them beating out the number two seed Seahawks for 12-4 as the NFC West winners. The Cowboys come in number three for me at 11-5. I got the Vikings at 10-6, and that's obviously the four division winners. The first wild card is going to be the Saints at 11-5. I got the 49ers at 10-6 as the second wild card, and then finally, I got the Eagles sneaking in at 9-7. I believe it was the Eagles, and I was throwing around the idea of Atlanta having a run for that last spot, but I just can't put my faith in a team in Atlanta that has one good year, two bad years, one good year, two bad years. So who really knows which Atlanta team is going to show up this year?
Right, for sure. I'm kind of in lockstep with a lot of those picks. I have the Eagles winning the NFC East. I believe in the continuity. You got Doug Peterson, you got Carson Wentz, and that whole system, that whole core is still there. And we saw what the Eagles did last year with the guys that a lot of people that were still signed off the street because half of their aerial attack was on injured reserve. And I guess Alshon Jeffrey's still alive. He's still on the team, so maybe he'll regain his form from a few years ago in that Super Bowl run. The NFC North, even with their losses on defense, I still think it's the Vikings to lose. I mean, Detroit really doesn't scare me that much, even though they just signed old man Adrian Peterson and Matt Patricia and company are on the hot seat. I still think it's the Vikings division to win. Give me the Saints. Again, continuity for me is going to be key, especially this year. I think the 49ers are going to repeat winning the NFC West. I have the Buccaneers as a wild card team. I have Dallas as a wild card team as well too. And the last wild card spot, obviously you got to have actually, you know what? No, not going with Seattle. I have Arizona winning the wild card. I like what they did in the offseason. I think you're going to have a giant step forward from Kyler Murray, both on the ground rushing and through the air. They just locked up DeAndre Hopkins to a 2-year contract extension, no trade clause. He can opt out, I think, at the end of next season if he wanted to. But no, I like everything that they're doing. And my let's get crazy last wild card spot, I said it last week. I could see Washington possibly making it to the playoffs if the stars align, and I'm still going to stick by that. But that is my let's get nuts wild card prediction team.
Wow, that's quite insane. Okay, let's move on to the AFC and the NFC Championship games. I have the Ravens versus Chiefs, and I think the Chiefs are going to be hosting. I will have the Ravens beating the Chiefs in Arrowhead, and I'm going to have the Ravens going to the Super Bowl. On the NFC side, I got the Buccaneers versus the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game, and I'm going to have the Buccaneers beating the Seahawks, and we're going to have a Ravens versus Buccaneers Super Bowl. And of course, I got the Buccaneers winning, and Tom Brady hosting that seventh Lombardi Trophy.
There we go. So surprised, so surprised. A bold prediction from
That is a bold prediction. Nobody has the Buccaneers winning the Super Bowl. God. Nobody does. Come on.
Oh boy.
Everybody has the Saints win that division.
Here's you know what? I'm gonna stick by my let's get nuts prediction from a few episodes ago when Hammer Time, aka Frisco, aka Mikey P, was on the podcast. And for the AFC, I have Steelers Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. It's going to be at Arrowhead, and for the NFC side of the matchup, I have Cardinals 49ers. The 49ers hosting the game. And I think the Steelers are going to come out on top. I'm really buying the reports that I'm hearing out of the camp for Pittsburgh. With Big Ben has really got the zip going on the ball. He looks refreshed. You really wouldn't be able to tell that he had a potentially career-ending elbow injury. I like what they're going to do with Juju Smith-Schuster, moving him back inside. Claypool may go outside. And there were a couple of reports from The Athletic yesterday or possibly Friday where they said they were going to have Eric Ebron be more of a focal point at the tight end position and moving him all over the formation as a chess piece. And if he's able to regain that form he had a couple of years ago in Indianapolis when he had 13 touchdowns, that could be a top 5 offensive unit with a Super Bowl caliber defense that they have that went 8-8 under Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph last year. And then for the Super Bowl matchup, I got Steelers, Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are going to beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. We're going to get a rematch of Super Bowl about like maybe 5-6 years ago with the Steelers and Cardinals. And I think Big Ben's going to win the Super Bowl this year. I think the Steelers have that kind of team. And if James Conner is able to stay healthy, they could really run the football, win on the defensive side of the football as well, and just go from there. And I think Mike Tomlin's going to get another Super Bowl championship under his belt.
First of all, did you realize that instead of 5-6 years ago, it was like 11 years ago
Something
in
like that.
2009?
Yeah,
Can you believe it's
like
been
that
long? 11 years?
It does not feel like that. That's
Right.
that's the fucked up thing. But then again, I'm blaming a lot of things on COVID, where the space-time continuum is kind of a blur because, all semblance of former reality is kind of out the window with everything still being kind of locked down.
And secondly, your let's get nuts pick from a few weeks ago just became your real pick, huh?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Puma, always one for throwing your curveball.
I don't know, man. If this defense, if they could kind of play like what the 98 and 97 Denver Broncos did with their defense, win on that side of the football and run heavy with at the time they had Terrell Davis for both of those back-to-back Super Bowl championships with Elway. This team could potentially do that with James Conner. They really love Benny Snell. He's able to catch the ball out of the backfield, and if for some reason James Conner goes down, you might not miss a beat with Benny Snell. Like this might be the team that could finally do it.
Yeah, and listen, at the end of the day, I do believe that defense is going to show out for the Steelers. They always show out for the Steelers. That's what they're kind of built on. But the fact that, you have James Conner and Big Ben, Juju Smith-Schuster, and essentially every single year it seems that the Steelers somehow find this gem of a wide receiver. I think Charles Claypool is going to be that X factor for the Steelers. So I see your logic here, but there's absolutely no way that the Ravens are going to be left out of that division. Essentially, I think the Ravens are going to beat up the Steelers all year long. I do, essentially, at the end of the day, I also think the Browns are going to have a say in that as well. So, we'll see how it pans out.
Oh, for sure. I love me some Lamar, but he's got to win a playoff game.
That's true.
Like he's got to get that monkey off his back.
0-2 now?
0-2. Yep.
Yeah. Cool. All right, let's move on to the 3 quarterbacks that need to perform this year. Obviously, quarterback is the hot position in the NFL. Everybody likes to talk about quarterbacks. And I think there's a few quarterbacks that really need to perform this year. The first one being Baker Mayfield. I'm going to be hard on this guy this year. I'm going to ride him week in and week out. And the reason why is because I do believe he has a talent. And I do believe there's talent around him on the Cleveland Browns. Man, when you go down the list and you see that they have, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb and Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Njoku and Austin Hooper and a stud of an offensive line, I think top to bottom that's like the best cast of offensive weapons there is in the NFL. So he has absolutely no more excuses this year. He took a step back last year. A lot of his step back could have been attributed to the fact that Freddie Kitchens is a complete moron. But now he even has a competent head coach in Kevin Stefanski who'll provide quite a bit of structure for him. So I think it comes down to, essentially Baker Mayfield stepping it up and, living up to his billing. And if he doesn't, then I do believe that Kevin Stefanski is going to pull him quickly and throw Case Keenum in there. There's a reason why he went out there and got Keenum to come, be the backup in Cleveland. So the pressure is on for Baker Mayfield.
For sure. No, and I agree with that. And he's definitely, I think he's going to be a bounce back candidate. Let's be honest, that entire team had the hype train was unreal last year, and not even giving them a free pass because of that. I mean, Freddie Kitchens, one, was not ready to be to be a head coach, like at all last year. He did not adjust his game management, the game script, the play calling, did not play to Baker Mayfield's strengths, which is off of play action and in heavy personnel. I mean, if this one guy on CBS Sports, I forget his name, but it was a fantasy commentator. But he broke it down perfectly. And if you look back to his rookie season where he broke the rookie touchdown record, a lot of those formations, it was not only out of play action, but it was out of heavy personnel, 2 tight end sets, max protection for Baker Mayfield, giving him enough time. And he's kind of that guy that needs the timing and the rhythm. And if you have no offensive line and you're not playing to your quarterback strengths, you're just getting, it's a recipe for friggin' disaster. But I think he's able to bounce back. They really addressed it with Jack Conklin. But my quarterback to keep an eye out for, it's really going to be Kirk Cousins. At this point, this team has always been hopeful. They've always been close to, moving forward towards the next step. I thought they could have been a Super Bowl caliber team last year with the defense that they had, despite the regression from Xavier Rhodes from one of the top cornerbacks in the league to one of the top cornerbacks that was burnt toast last year. But I mean, really, that defensive side of the ball, they lost a lot of people, and now I think more is going to be on Kirk Cousins' plate to actually keep up in games and get the ball downfield. And who knows if Dalvin Cook is really going to play a full season because he wants to get paid. He wants a new contract. And it's kind of hard to pay a running back a new contract when said running back has not really played 16 games over the last 2 years. So a lot more is going to be on his plate. They lost Stephon Diggs. They have a rookie wide receiver, Justin Jefferson out of LSU, and a lot more is going to be on Adam Thielen's plate as well too. So the pressure's really on for him, and I think they had to renegotiate his contract where I think, don't quote me on this, but I think that if things don't go according to plan, they could get out of that contract next season, and they may be a candidate for a quarterback if they don't go as far as they want in the postseason this year.
Okay, I can see that. The second quarterback that needs to perform this year, and this one might be a little bit out of left field, and this wasn't gonna be on my list until a couple days ago. But Deshaun Watson, with the contract that he just signed, the massive, I forget the numbers off the top of my head, Puma, was it 4 years, $160 million? Is that what the new money contract
Yeah,
was?
it's 40 years, 160 million. I think 101 was guaranteed, and the per year breakdown, it's north of what Mahomes is making the first 3 years. I think it's 40 and change, like just a tick over.
Yeah.
So he's now the highest paid quarterback.
Yeah, and that is one of the main reasons why I threw Deshaun Watson on this list because I thought Deshaun Watson coming out of Clemson was going to be the next stud quarterback, right? The next like elite quarterback in the NFL or in the AFC. And for the most part, he's I think in my eyes underperformed, right? And the couple of the fact that you just got paid more money than Patrick Mahomes, and the pressure is going to be on. And it didn't really, open my eyes until I started looking at some of the numbers. We think of Deshaun Watson and Dak Prescott in two completely different leagues, but when you really boil it all down, both quarterbacks have won the division twice, and both quarterbacks only have one playoff win. And I believe, if I'm correct, it's either 1-2 in the playoffs or 1-3 in the playoffs. Whatever the record is, it's essentially just one win. And I can be truthful with you, unless if it wasn't, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills completely melting down in Houston this year, Deshaun Watson might have 0 wins. So I really do hope that he can kind of step it up and start going toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes, and he'll start this Thursday night. And I think the fact that he essentially went up 24-0 in the playoffs in Arrowhead. And still lost that game in a blowout was a big eye opener for me. Like, I understand a lot has to happen for you to essentially win an Arrowhead, but when you're up 24-0 and drive by drive they're coming back, you've got to make a play here and there. I started watching that game on NFL Network again, and there were some drives there where he was just simply throwing the ball into the dirt. Sure, there were some miscues on the offensive side as a whole, but at the end of the day, you're the quarterback, you got to lead your team, and you can't be having drive after drive of not producing points when the Chiefs are making a roaring comeback. So a little bit out of left field here, but I do feel strongly because I so badly want to relive those Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning, AFC battles. And I don't see anybody able to take that mantle away from Patrick Mahomes just yet. We do have one piece of the rivalry there. We're gonna figure out if it's gonna be Deshaun Watson or Lamar Jackson that's gonna take that mantle of that second guy to challenge Patrick Mahomes in the AFC.
All right, all right. I'm gonna follow that up with kind of a left field one myself that I just thought of. And well, to answer your last part, I think out of the Mahomes versus Watson or Lamar Jackson, rivalry that's going to be the next Manning Brady one. I gotta go with Watson right now. At least he won a playoff game, and that leads me to my next quarterback on the hot seat. Again, out of left field, it's going to be the defending NFL MVP, the unanimous one at that as well, in Lamar Jackson. Only because this league catches up to players so quickly, offenses so quickly that he's not going to be able to just run as much as he did last year. And granted, he was able to air the ball out. They got the tight ends involved a lot. I think you're going to see Hollywood Brown involved in the offense a lot more. But really, Lamar needs to win a playoff game. Like, there's all this hope that he's going to be the next Super Bowl champion. They're going to go down to Tampa Bay, and they're going to be able to run the football and lean on the defense that they have right now, minus Earl Thomas, which may be an addition by subtraction kind of deal. But at the end of the day, you can't get to Tampa until you win a playoff game. And until I see that, the question is going to be, should he have been? If let me ask you this, Jake. I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, real quick.
It's okay. Well, let's have debates. Instead
if
of just putting stuff out.
If Patrick Mahomes didn't get hurt last year, does Lamar win MVP?
Yes,
because
I do.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I do believe, and I think we do need to give Lamar a little bit of credit here, because the knock on him coming in was like, all right, well, can his little frame take up the beating that the NFL provides you? And if you look at it, the healthiest out of all three quarterbacks between Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, and Deshaun Watson is Lamar Jackson.
For sure, absolutely. I kind of go the opposite. I think that if Mahomes was able to play all 16 games last year, I don't think Lamar would have won it. I think it might have been Mahomes with the clean sweep and the NFL and Super Bowl MVP. But it would have been close because, let's face it, Lamar had a magical season last year. I just think in today's NFL that, everybody catches up to the new trend so quickly. Look at what happened with the Rams. They were unstoppable up until the Super Bowl, and then everybody figured them out real quick. And they were a 10-win team that didn't make the playoffs last year. So they're going to have to kind of go back to their roots, and I'll get to that for the Monday night preview. I just think that Lamar, he's been protective. He hasn't taken not undue risk, but he hasn't been stupid with running the football and getting obliterated on tackles. He's been smart about it. But I just think we're going to need to see the next step forward in the aerial attack, and it really just can't be just to the tight end. I think you're going to need to see Hollywood Brown get involved a lot more on the offensive side of the football.
Okay, cool. And then finally, my last one that we got to keep an eye out for, and you mentioned him, Jared Goff and the LA Rams. I think this is it for him. The LA Rams last year severely underperformed. And even let's go back further. They kind of underperformed in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, and Jared Goff by all means did not have a good outing at all in the Super Bowl. I think ever since then his confidence has been a little bit on the shaken side. He doesn't have Todd Gurley to lean on and the running game to lean on, so they're asking more for him to make plays, and it seems like he hasn't been able to. Last year he regressed quite a bit. He only had 22 touchdowns, 69 T's, 85.5 rating. So he was very middle of the pack. So couple that with the fact that they underperformed last year, it's no surprise that the Rams asked him to restructure his contract. So usually whenever teams ask you to restructure the contract, they're not happy with your performance and they think you're making too much money. And that's the first sign in, well, listen, if you don't perform this year, we're going to cut bait and move on. So I do believe Jared Goff's got to perform, and it's going to be hard. That NFC West could be the best division in the NFL, along with the AFC North or the NFC South. You've got just, dynamite teams up and down the coast. You've got the Seattle Seahawks who are going to come to play. You've got the 49ers, who we all know were the defending NFC champions last year. You got the Arizona Cardinals, who are the up-and-coming hot team. So, Jared Goff, the pressure's on you, brother.
Yeah, no, I like that pick. I'm gonna go my last one, and I think you were kind of kicking the tires on this guy as well too. It's Derek Carr.
Yep.
I mean, it.
He's the
I'm
one that I.
amazed.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
For me, I didn't put Derek Carr in because I think it's already done. Like if Mariota didn't get hurt, I think we would have saw, Mariota step in for Derek Carr 4 or 5 weeks in. But I still, regardless, I think after this year they're moving on from Derek
Oh,
Carr.
for sure. And I'm amazed. I'm amazed that Derek Carr made the move to Vegas. I mean,
Mhm.
let's be honest. He had that one magical run under Jack Del Rio where the stars aligned perfectly, and if he didn't break his leg, I believe it was the last week of the season or the second to last week of the season where he broke it. I think it was against Jacksonville, as a matter of fact. He possibly could have been MVP of the league that year. If not, he definitely was making rumblings for it. He was actually airing the ball out for once in that offense as well too. And I just think this season, like you said, Marcus Mariota, he's on the short-term uh, injured reserve list with a pectoral muscle issue. He's eligible to come back after being on IR for 3 weeks. After 3 weeks or 4 weeks, if Derek Carr is stinking up the joint, what's to stop them from going to Mike Mayock's guy in Marcus Mariota to see if Mariota can do what Ryan Tannehill did to him last year in Tennessee? And with Tyrell Williams being out, he's on injured reserve with a shoulder injury. They got a new wide receiver in the draft, the top 12 pick in Henry Ruggs out of Alabama. And Darren Waller, one of the up and coming tight ends, they're really going to have their work cut out for them in the AFC West. That's run by the Kansas City Chiefs, has playoff hopeful in the Denver Broncos, and possibly a Chargers team that may surprise people because Tyrod Taylor doesn't turn the ball over. So he's going to keep the team in games, and that team being the Chargers could lean on Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram to wreak havoc on the defensive side of the football and win games through turnovers. So they're going to have their work cut out for them, and Derek Carr really needs to bring his A game, or he might be the perennial backup for the rest of his career, like the rest of his family.
Yeah, listen, I do believe that Gruden is the kind of guy who always has an eye out for a quarterback. He's a quarterback whore, right?
I mean, he was willing to trade up to get Kyler Murray
hmm
if he had enough capital to convince Steve Keim
Yeah,
to get out of the number one pick. He was down to get Murray. He
yeah.
loved Murray.
The only positive here for Derek Carr is the fact that Marcus Mariota got put on IR. That buys him some more time. But
Yep.
like you said, a short-term IR, I can easily see Marcus Mariota at some point starting for the Oakland Raiders. I'm sorry, the Las Vegas Raiders now at some point this
Oh,
year.
geez, we got to put that. We got to get a Raider jar next to the Washington football team jar too.
Okay, cool. That wraps it up. Let's jump into the week one games that we are going to dissect for you. It's going to start Thursday night. We're going to have Houston traveling to KC. Last time Houston was in KC, we all know the story of 24 points, get blown out, blah, blah, blah. But essentially, since there is no off season, I'm sorry, since there is no preseason, we really don't have much to go off of in regards to X's and O's and what these teams look like. So the best we can do is kind of go off what we saw last from these teams and kind of go off some rankings from last year. So in regards to the specialty for the Houston Texans last year, I mean, they were good at running the ball. Simply put, they were ninth in yards per game rushing the ball with 125 yards and 4.6 yards per carry. Now, I bring that up because they unfortunately let their best running back leave, who was Carlos Hyde. He had 4.4 yards per carry and brought in a guy in David Johnson who only has 3.7 yards per carry last year. So that immediately goes to like, what the fuck are you thinking, Billy Boy, right? And I'm sure you love bagging on Billy Boy for dumb shit like that.
No, 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 not Billy Boy, not Billy Boy. It's Billo the Clown.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot his real name.
Billo the Clown. Billo the Clown.
Now, the reason I bring up the rushing attack is because one of the ways you can attack the Kansas City Chiefs is by running the ball on them. Last year, their run defense wasn't the best. They were 4.9 yards per carry, and they gave up 128 yards per game, which is 26th in the NFL. Furthermore, the Houston pass offense itself, you know, like I said, we all believe Deshaun Watson is this amazing quarterback, and he's always going to lead the Texans to a top five offense. That wasn't the case last year. They were middle of the pack, 15th in the league in most categories. Essentially, they were middle of the pack, and they lost DeAndre Hopkins this year. So now Cooks, Kenny Stills, and Randall Cobb are going to have to step up and fill that void. Now, in regards to the offense for the Texans, they're going to go up against a sneaky good pass defense for Kansas City. I looked at the numbers, and looks like they were 80.8 rating, which is sneaky good, and that's fifth best in the NFL. So it won't be easy for Deshaun Watson to throw on that KC defense. It's going to have to be a rushing attack. Now, on the other side, the calling card for the Kansas City Chiefs is that lethal offense. I'm not going to sit here and run through these numbers. Top five in all categories. They're going to score a million points. They're going to put the pressure on you. They were just absolutely dynamite last year, and they added Clyde Edwards-Helaire this year. I think that's going to be the key factor here. That offense is just going to be lights out. They're going to put pressure on Houston. It's going to be KC winning easy. In my book, the line is 9 points. I'm going to go with KC wins but doesn't cover. 35-28 final score KC.
All right. I'm gonna. Everything you said was perfect. I will say this though. I think Bill O'Brien. I'm sorry, I broke my own rule here. Bill the Clown is going to make an attempt to showcase David Johnson out of the backfield. One, because we saw what he did with the ghost of Carlos Hyde last year, and two, they traded their best wide receiver and a second or third round draft pick to Arizona for this guy that was probably going to get released anyways. They could have got him on the cheap. And let's be honest, like David Johnson is a more than capable running back, getting the ball out of the backfield and getting in space. And I think they're going to try to come up with ways to use him and possibly move him around the formation to create the mismatch and possibly open up Will Fuller to go down the field and stretch the defense and take the top off, because Will Fuller has that kind of speed. The offensive line has really started to come together towards down the stretch last year. I'm taking Houston in this game. I think the revenge factor is real. They've been chewing on that loss, that 24-point blown lead that they had in the playoffs last year. And I think they're going to come out. I think they're going to win this game, especially in Arrowhead with, what is it, like up to 22% capacity. It's not going to be the rock and Arrowhead that we're accustomed to on opening night. I think Houston wins. The over-under in this game is 54.5, and a common theme, at least with me for the Week 1 slate, is I'm going to take the unders in the at least the primetime matchups, just because, like you said, Jay, at the top, we haven't had preseason. I honestly think that the defense might be ahead of the offensive side of the football for the first couple of weeks, and I think that, a lot of people are going to try to be a little bit more conservative coming out of the gates, especially with the Von Miller injury in practice today. They don't want to, lose their stars right off the bat. And I think they might have a little bit more of a conservative game plan. So I'm going to take the under in this game, but I do have Houston winning outright.
Okay, cool. Moving up to our game, the Dolphins versus the Patriots. This is going to be a fun one, right?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be great.
Okay, so we all know the story by now. I don't got to sit here and rehash it, right? Tom Brady, in my eyes, was ridden out of town by Bill Jerry Krause Belichick's ego, and we thought that essentially Jarrett Stidham was going to be the next guy for the Patriots. Curveball, middle of the summer, Cam Newton gets picked up, and he wins the job over Stidham in camp. And listen to this, Puma. What's your thoughts on this? Mike Reese was actually throwing the idea that Jarrett Stidham might be a third quarterback on the depth chart, and Brian Hoyer might be number 2. Now, there's some rumblings that that's because of injury factor, but I listened to Patriots Unfiltered podcast today, and they're thinking straight out, Stidham is healthy enough to be playing. I think Brian Hoyer won that second spot. I mean, that is absolutely fascinating to me.
I'm not saying it's beyond the realm of possibility. I just lean a little bit more towards the injury issue being the bigger problem of why he would be third on the first depth chart release this week.
Mm-hmm. Now, on the other side, the Dolphins, now they were in a complete rebuild mode last year. I think we should see some strides from this team this year, as they have added quite a bit of talent in the offseason, including their franchise quarterback, Tua. And then additionally, they added quite a bit of defensive talent as well. And like I said, truthfully, we have no idea what's going to happen in week one because we don't have any preseason, and we have no idea how this New England offense is going to look as well because, obviously we have no idea how much Cam is going to run or what kind of packages there will be. So in that, it is kind of exciting for me because I haven't seen this in quite a bit. But it will be interesting to see how Cam meshes with the wide receivers. Now, if I had to guess, Miami is going to stick Byron Jones and Edelman. And after that, no one else is going to be able to get open for the Patriots. So Cam is going to have to do what he's relied on quite a bit. That's going to have to be leaning on his running backs. That's what he did quite a bit in Carolina with Run CMC. And I think this is where James White is going to be the key. I think James White is, going to be one of those backs this year you're going to have to keep an eye on for fantasy every single year just because Cam loves his running backs, especially out of the backfield. And there's just a lack of wide receiver talent on the Patriots roster. Now, no shade Puma, but I do think for the Patriots, the Finns are the perfect week one opponent to try to, get meshed up with the wide receivers, try out some new tactics, see where offenses is going to be, and just going off of some numbers from last year, the pass defense for the Finns was not that good. I mean, we're talking 101 yards per game. That's
We had a
29th.
pass defense.
Essentially 29th in the NFL, right?
I mean,
Now,
we had a pass defense because I didn't know we had a pass defense.
well, listen, it shows in the numbers, man. They're quite low in regards to those rankings. Now, I do expect the additions of Cavano and Shaq Lawson, and I forgot the cornerback you guys took in the first round, but I do think there's some key talent that Brian Flores bought in that's gonna essentially help you guys, help out on the defensive end. Now, if I had to guess, I do think Bill Belichick is going to stick Stephon Gilmore and Devontae Parker because, truthfully, he balled out last year. I believe in that Week 16 game, he had, 2 touchdowns and 160 yards?
Yeah, Uncle Devontae. Uncle Devontae. 50th breakout.
Right, and then I also believe that this year you guys are going to have a much better running game. I do believe Matt Breida and Howard is going to do light years for that running attack. Last year you guys were pretty bad in rush offense, and you might say you might give me that inquisitive question again. Did you guys have a running attack?
Jay, not to cut you off. Fitzpatrick was our leading rusher with
I
200
know,
overall yards.
It's pretty. I had that.
Anything,
that's crazy.
anything is an improvement.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a surge protector that's plugged into the wall that my laptop is hooked up to. And if that was able to get a couple of rushing yards, that might be an improvement on what our rushing attack was last year.
Yeah. And spot on. Listen, the numbers are pretty bad for you guys when it comes to rushing. It's 31st last year, 3.3 yards per carry, and Fitzy is your leading rusher. It's pretty bad. But now you do have some talent in Breida and Howard. So I think you take the fact that Cam is still learning this offense, and Miami will be able to run the ball on the Patriots. I mean, I hate to say this, but this is no more guaranteed Tom Brady turning the Miami Dolphins into Miami tuna fish. Give me the Dolphins 17-14.
Wow. Did not see that coming. I'm gonna go. I don't know how I feel about you picking the Dolphins to win a game. Like I don't know.
When you look at the fact that essentially we have no idea what this offense is going to look like, and the fact that nobody, for God's sakes, right now Bill Belichick doesn't have his kicking game figured out. We don't know who's going to be our kicker. You know what I'm saying? The guy that we picked up, Justin Warwasser, he's nowhere to be found.
Oh, he's buried on the practice squad with Nick Folk. Don't worry, he'll get the 3%er kicking field goals on week one. Here's my thought. I have New England winning this game only because, like you said, one, we don't really know what we're going to get. This is going to be a tune-up game for the New England offense. And as much as I like the offseason moves that my team, the Dolphins, did with getting Van Noy and signing Byron Jones to pair him with Xavier Howard to really lock down that secondary, and Christian Wilkins took a step forward last year, our first-round pick in the previous draft. I feel like New England is going to be a power running team. They really did not address the wide receiver position unless they have a huge amount of faith in N'Keal Harry finally getting separation on the outside with Julian Edelman. But they don't really have the tight end position locked down. Sony Michel's off the PUP list. Damian Harris went on short-term IR. You're going to get James White, Cam Newton. If he's able to be the Cam that we're used to and, running the football down people's throats and throwing the football as well, too. I just think that Josh McDaniels is licking his chops to kind of bring back the running quarterback dual threat option with Cam Newton. And it's the perfect candidate to do that, and it's the perfect team to tune up against the Dolphins. And on the defensive side of the football for New England, I think they might have their way against my offensive line. It's still young. They're still developing and coming together, and I just don't have a whole lot of faith. I will say this from a season-long fantasy perspective. Yes, Devontae Parker did ball out last year, but he really started putting stats up when Preston Williams went down with the ACL injury. All reports coming out of Dolphins camp is that Preston Williams is really taking a step forward. He's still on special teams, but the knee hasn't been nagging him at all. And I think he could be a weekly flex option in fantasy football with Preston Williams. And especially if you're going to have Stephon Gilmore lining up against Devontae Parker, that's going to be opening up the field to Preston Williams. But I'm going with New England here. I think they're 6.5-point favorites. I think they cover this game as well too.
Isn't that funny? You picked the Patriots, I picked the Dolphins.
I season long, I do have them splitting the series. I just don't think right off the bat we're going to win up in Foxborough. I don't think so.
Now, if we do somehow lose to the Dolphins this weekend, that's going to be 2 regular season games in a row we lost to Dolphins, and I bet you it's going to be like Armageddon up there in Boston.
Probably, but it probably wouldn't be as bad because I think a lot, and I mean you as well too, you can speak to this, like a lot of New England fans went in expecting the worst out of this year, like expecting a high draft pick. And maybe, Bill Belichick works his magic with draft picks and pulls a rabbit out of his hat and gets maybe a top 5 pick and is able to snag Justin Fields because I don't think he would have enough capital to trade up to the 1 spot.
Yeah. No, listen, you're spot on, right, man. As a Patriots fan, this is kind of weird for me. This is the first time in 20 years where the expectation is not, winning Super Bowl. I mean, that's what we've known for 20 years, Super Bowl or bust. Now it's all right. Well, let's just hope we can kind of be reputable and maybe make the playoffs and may have a 9-7 year. It's kind of a shitty feeling, and I finally feel, how most NFL fans feel. But after 20 years, I mean, it is what it is. So we'll see what happens.
Everybody hurts.
I just hope my boy Bill Jerry Cross Belichick knows what he's doing.
There we go. Yeah. We'll see.
Okay, next game, and I think this is my second most anticipated game, second or third, one of those, of games of the week is going to be the Browns versus the Baltimore Ravens. So the Cleveland Browns versus the Baltimore Ravens, that is going to be one fantastic matchup. We kind of went in depth about the fact that Baker Mayfield is going to have to step it up this year, and he's going to have to start like week 1, man. He's going to have to match point for point against that Ravens offense. Like some of these numbers I'm going to read off, they're just absolutely bonkers, man. They're like number 1 in points per game, 33.2, over 200 yards per game on the ground, which ranked first, 5.5 yards per carry. And essentially the fact that the Ravens can run the ball so well lines up perfect with the fact that the Cleveland Browns can't really stop the run much. That's been one of their weakest points last year. Hopefully it can turn around this year because I do believe the game is going to hinge on the fact that the Browns can shut down the Ravens running attack. The fact that Myles Garrett is going to return and wreak some havoc is always a plus. And if we look at the roadmap for the Browns to beat the Ravens, it's going to come down to effectively, taking the line of scrimmage and controlling it and running the ball. The reason why the Baltimore Ravens lost last year in the playoffs to the Tennessee Titans is because Derrick Henry went absolutely berserk. They couldn't stop him. And the fact that Cleveland beat them last year as well was because Nick Chubb went berserk, had 100-plus yards and 2 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns and 165 yards. I do believe Nick Chubb is going to have success running the ball this weekend as well. I think he's going to have 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. So give me the upset here. Cleveland wins 31-28.
I'm with you. I have Cleveland winning this game too.
Oh.
For once, we actually agree on a pick. I do have Cleveland winning. I expect a lot more, and like you said, we're not going to beat a dead horse here. If you want to hear our takes on the Cleveland offense, rewind about 20 minutes and you'll be happy. But I do expect one Nick Chubb to enforce his will in between the tackles a little bit, and they just signed Kareem Hunt to an extension, and not only in fantasy football, but in real life football as well too. He is a running back with standalone value. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. We did see what he could do as the lead back in Kansas City, and I think Stefanski's going to use him all over the formation. You might see Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb on the field at the same time. Maybe you see Kareem Hunt lined up wide to get the mismatch, but this could be a potential, a very potent 1-2 punch out of the backfield. And, say what you want about Earl Thomas being out of there, but he was a talented safety despite making a couple of business decisions towards the end of the season, especially in the playoffs against Derrick Henry. But he did bring a little bit of an edge to that defense, especially when he was paired with Marlon Humphreys out in center field as well, too. So that is going to be a loss. It's going to be felt for a couple of weeks, I think. But I do think that the Cleveland Browns are going to win. And fun fact, quick tangent here, Jay. Did you know that they have pretty decent odds for Myles Garrett to be comeback player of the year this year?
What's the odds?
I'm pulling that up now. I feel like it actually changed a little bit. But he was getting like top 10 odds for comeback player of the year. Like,
come back from what?
You're coming back from a suspension where you decapitated somebody? Like, yeah. What the hell are you coming back from? But let's see, where the hell, for those keeping track at home, we do use DraftKings Sportsbook as the official betting app of the Pro Football Radio podcast. Where the hell is...
Both myself and DePuma took a little drive out to New Jersey this past weekend to put our sports bets in, just because the state of Connecticut doesn't allow us to do that. And anywhere around here, whether it's Rhode Island or Mass or New York, they don't allow it either. So we had to go on a nice little cruise, which I didn't mind. It was a good little bonding time with DePuma.
Oh, yeah, it was a nice day.
We got some pizza on the way back. It was good stuff.
Shit. You know what? It looks like he fell off because a lot of these players' odds improved. I think he actually fell off the slate. But at one point this year, he was getting like top 15 odds to be comeback player of the year. So keep that in mind.
Not bad at all. It's not bad at all, man.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Who did you end up picking for that game?
I went with you. I got the Browns winning.
Cool. Next up, Tampa Bay versus New Orleans. My most anticipated game of the week, man. Let's see. We all know the story, right? Brady and Gronkowski, they're joining one of the best pass offenses from last year. Regardless of all the turnovers that Jameis Winston threw, he still got them to the first passed offense with 302 yards per game. You obviously have two wide receivers in Mike Evans and Goodwin. We finally get to see what Brady can do with real wide receivers. I mean, at the end of the day, in my estimation, Belichick has only provided Brady with two good weapons in his 20 years, which is Gronk and Randy Moss. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I do think this game the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to win this game if they can control the line of scrimmage and essentially run the ball. The fact that they added Tristan Wirfs and Gronk, I do believe is going to do wonders for that running attack. You sprinkle in some savvy running backs with, Fournette and Ronald Jones and Shady. I do think that eventually, they will be able to run the ball really well. And even I do believe the first 3-4 weeks of the season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have to rely on the running game until Brady and the offense can get up to speed. Now, on the other end, the Saints offense themselves, they're just as potent as Tampa Bay, minus the interceptions, right?
Oh, for sure. 30 for 30.
Right? 373 yards per game. They score 28.6 points per game, which is third in the NFL. You add Emmanuel Sanders to that explosive offense from last year, and I think this is going to be insanely fun to watch. I do believe that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is gonna have some success this week against the Saints. I like everything about that defense, man. There's just studs all across the board, and Todd Bowles is gonna have those guys playing well. But I do believe in the grand scheme of things when you look at this, I think it's going to be too much to ask for a neat team that's still meshing, that's still trying to find the vibe, figure out who they are, to go into, you know, Mercedes-Benz Superdome without a preseason and a condensed COVID, off season and beat the Saints. I think that's a tall task. So I do have the Saints winning here 24-7.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Saints winning as well too. Look at that, we have back-to-back picks we agree
Look at
on.
that, huh?
Like I said with my playoff picks, like continuity is going to be key. This core has been together for the last 10 years for the most part. Michael Thomas really broke out last year, broke Marvin Harrison's single season reception record. He's now got a bona fide number 2 wide receiver in Emmanuel Sanders in the fold. Alvin Kamara, he's coming off of an injury, but all reports sound like he's full go, and he may or may not be a couple $100 million richer by the time you listen to this podcast, because there have been rumblings that him and the Saints have started to come together and agree to terms to an extension. We just don't know the full details yet, but they are on the 1 yard line in regards to a contract extension. And this is going to be, I honestly feel this is going to be Drew Brees and Sean Payton's final ride. So they have to win now, and in this division that could potentially eat their own, they are going to have to win these hard hitting divisional games. In regards to the Buccaneers, like you said, Jay, I mean, on paper everything looks great, but it's a COVID shortened environment. You have a new offense that Tom Brady's learning. You have a back surgery candidate in Rob Gronkowski. There's a lot of hype surrounding this team, and they're going to have to rely on the running game a little bit. I think you're going to see Ronald Jones get the lion's share of carries for the first couple of weeks, as at least this week, as Leonard Fournette gets integrated into the fold. So I'm going to go with the Saints in this one. The over under I think was at 50 points here. Nope.
Take the under.
It actually moved under. It went down to 49. I'm taking the under in this game. There's going to be a lot of feeling each other out, and I don't think they're going to be lighting up the Superdome like we normally expect them to.
Yeah, I do believe that the Buccaneers are going to split the series with the Saints, but I do believe this game is going to be more on the lower scoring side, just because it's week 1 in a off season that's just been insane. They've had no preseason games. I'm sure tackling is going to be sloppy. I'm sure offense is going to look sloppy for 3-4 weeks. So I think it's a lot to ask the Buccaneers to go into the Superdome and win that game. But I do think down the road they're going to make this very interesting in the NFC South.
Gotcha.
Sunday Night Football, Cowboys and Rams. This is going to be a fun one as well, man.
Yeah, new SoFi Stadium. Stadium.
You know how much it costs to build the SoFi Stadium?
I'm going to go with close to probably $1 billion, million with a B dollars.
$5 billion.
And all of that was mostly Ron Kroenke, the owner of the Rams,
because the Chargers can't do shit.
The Chargers can't sell season tickets, for Christ's sake.
So listen, we talked about this in the second segment of the show. Listen, Jared Goff needs to have a good year in the baddest of ways, man. Just his numbers from last year were not the best. 22 touchdowns, 69 Ts, 85.5 rating. Listen, all in all, he didn't play the best. But if you look at the Rams offense as a whole, they weren't that bad across the board, man. So most of their categories, they were about top 10. But they had issues keeping up with the NFC West and some of the offenses and the defenses in that division. Now, in my mind, one of the main reasons why you had this kind of flat Rams offense is because the running attack just wasn't there, man. Todd Gurley is over the hill. He soups major balls. They ranked 26th in rush offense last year.
He was not the Todd father anymore.
He was not the Todd father with 3.7 yards per carry. Now, on the Cowboys' offensive side, they were good last year, in my estimation and most estimations of football fans. And I just think they got better, man, by adding CeeDee Lamb. I do believe he's the best graded wide receiver in this year's draft class. Like last year, their pass offense was 296 yards per game, which was second and first in yards per game at 431. So I do believe adding CeeDee Lamb is going to give him a new dynamic element. And the fact that I do believe Zeke is going to have a massive comeback here. I think we were talking on Instagram the other day, he looks trimmer, he looks leaner. There were some points last year where Zeke just looks a little bulky, he looks a little heavy. Even though in our eyes, Zeke had a down year last year. He still had 1,300 yards rushing, 12 touchdowns, and 4.5 yards per carry. So it really gives you, this feel of just how great of a running back he is. How he had a down year, and he still played fairly well. I do believe Dallas is going to be able to run the ball and control the line of scrimmage and essentially control the game. I'm going to have the Dallas Cowboys win 28-24 in New SoFi Stadium.
Interesting. Now, I'll say this much about Zeke. He did trim up. He looks good. And in the words of my fiance, Tara, for fantasy football purposes, he's her man. But I will say this, with the hair that he's got going on, Jay, he still looks like the missing link. Like, he looks like he just became, thawed out of an ice block from the Neanderthal era, and they just put some football pads on him. But no, he's a
He
beast.
reminds me of Sideshow Bob.
Oh, for sure. You know what? Now that you say that, I do see that. Yes.
Yep.
Yes, he does. But I'm with you. I think Zeke is going to take a step forward. I just don't think it's going to start on Sunday night. I have the Rams winning this game, and I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I'm a big believer in continuity and the defensive side of the football. They still have one of the best players on the defensive side on the face of the planet in Aaron Donald. He's going to wreak havoc against that offensive line, the vaunted offensive line of the Dallas Cowboys. But, they have that. They have Jalen Ramsey in a decent secondary. Not great, but decent enough to keep the game close. And I think with the drafting of Cam Akers out of Florida State for the Rams this year, I think they're going to try to get back to the roots. They're going to be a little bit more run heavy. They're going to go back to back to the well and what they did well a couple of years ago with Todd Gurley before the degenerative knee issues flared up again. But I think you're going to see Cam Akers and Darrell Williams get into space a little bit more, especially coming out of the backfield, and you'll see a little bit more play action from Jared Goff. There's been a lot of great reports coming out of camp for Van Jefferson. I think he supplanted, God, I forget his first name. Last name is Reynolds, the wide receiver core for the Rams as the number 3 wide receiver. So for fantasy purposes, you might want to find a bench spot for Van Jefferson, just in case if anything happens to Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp, especially in the COVID times that we're in. They could see a massive uptick in volume for if Van Jefferson slides into that role. And like I said, I think Jared Goff is going to get a little bit more involved in the play action. And the Dallas defense, they took a step back in the secondary by losing Byron Jones. He really locked down that secondary. I think Robert Quinn is no longer with the team, so they lost him a little bit on the pass rush. So I'm going to go with a victory in the new house that the Rams are going to be playing in. It's going to be close. I'm taking the under in this game. The over-under's at 52. I'm going to be hammering the under. And if I could bet live during the game, I would be hammering the under as well, too.
Yeah, but we live in Connecticut and we can't do that. Boo.
Yeah, no shit. That's why we can't have fun.
Moving on to the Monday Night Football game, the Steelers versus the Giants. It's a 5.5 underdog. The Giants are pegged out, which is kind of a little bit on the insane side. I thought it would have been a 3-point underdog, but regardless, I think they had it right. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win this. I think they're going to win it close throw, but only by 3 points. In regards to the Steelers, there's quite a bit of storylines, man. How is Big Ben going to come back and play? How is he going to look? He had quite a bit he had a really big offseason. He had surgery. He had a come to Jesus moment where he told us how he was addicted to porn and alcohol. That was the highlight of the offseason. And then in regards to I think we talked about this earlier, the offensive talent for the Pittsburgh Steelers is going to be top notch, man. You've got James Conner, you got Juju Smith-Schuster, you've got Charles Claypool, who I absolutely love. I just think it's going to be too much for the Giants to handle. Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers, probably 27-24.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to take the Steelers to win, but I have the Giants covering. Like you said, it's a 5.5 point spread. At one point, I think it was actually 3.5, so it actually expanded a little bit. But I do have the Giants covering. I will say this though, despite them going up against this Super Bowl caliber defense, I would like to see what Daniel Jones can do when he has all of the number ones of the offensive side of the football on the field at the same time. Because that was the one thing he didn't have last year, was he didn't have Saquon, Evan Ingram, Golden Tate, and Sterling Shepard on the field at the same time. And at least for week one, that whole bountiful arsenal is going to be on the field. And DJ bulked up. Like he might have been hanging out with Saquon Barkley at the leg press machine because he got some baby quads going on, and I think he's a little bit more mobile than he gets credit for. And he really made it a point to work on making sure he's protecting the football. He led the league last year in fumbles alone, but I think he is a breakout candidate this year. I just don't think it happens on Monday night, but I do think they cover the spread.
Nice, nice. And then we got one last game. The Denver Broncos are going to be taking on the Tennessee Titans. This is the late game on Monday night. And by this time of week one, I am just so fatigued of football because I'll just sit down all day. Thursday wait for football. I'll sit down all day Sunday and watch football for 12 hours. I'll watch the first Monday night game. And by the time the second Monday night game comes around, Puma, I'm just absolutely worn out, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I'm with you. So what normally happens is, well, one, I work on Sundays, but I got it off this week. So I'm going to be hanging with you, and I'm going to be in a football coma all day Sunday. And I'm with you. Like, I'll watch the first game of Monday Night Football. You're lucky if I'm going to see a quarter of the second game. But Jay, before you get a little farther down the road in this game preview,
right?
yeah, so there's actually two bits of breaking news. One, Adam Schefter reported, I want to say maybe about 20 minutes ago, that to piggyback on the report that Von Miller suffered a potentially season-ending injury, he did confirm through a source that it's an ankle injury, like a tendon. So he kind of dodged a bullet with it being an Achilles, but it sounds like it's a beyond a grade 3 high ankle sprain. I think he actually tore ligaments in there. So they're going to have to go in and clean that out surgically. It looks like he's done for the year. But not only that, but Jesse Palmer of NFL Media reported that Bradley Chubb, coming off of an ACL injury last year, may not be full go week one. He may be on a pitch count at best for the home opener against the Tennessee Titans. So this defense is taking a massive hit right off the rails, and what I thought was potentially going to be a low-scoring game might be the one game in prime time that hits the over in this matchup between the Tennessee Titans and the Denver Broncos.
Listen, I already was leaning toward the Tennessee Titans win this game just because of the fact they're able to run the ball down the throats of the Denver Broncos defense, especially the fact that Bradley Chubb and now Miller is not going to be there. I have the Titans winning this. I have them winning big, man. They got Jadeveon Clowney. I don't think Drew Lock is going to be able to, take that next step this year. We'll see if he does. But yeah, I'm not going to watch this game and be passed out by this point. Just give me Tennessee Titans.
Right. No, I'm with you. I got the Titans winning. I picked them to win this game, and I'm going to cry a little bit because I also took the under in this matchup. But I have the Tennessee Titans winning. I had them winning before they even signed Jadeveon Clowney, who, he signed that contract. He could be a free agent at the end of the season. Again, he's never had a double-digit sack season, but he is a elite run stopper, and this is a team in the Denver Broncos that they have, I call him Mighty Mouse, Philip Lindsay, the local product out of the University of Colorado, and they also signed Melvin Gordon in free agency, but he's had an issue adjusting and acclimating to the altitude of Denver, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I just think coming out the gates, I don't have Denver winning. I really don't expect them to. I mean, they're gonna. Jay, they're gonna have to keep up through the air because their defense is really gonna have a hard time stopping people when you got a refrigerator with legs coming at you and Derrick Henry. And if they're gonna run the ball a crap ton, they're gonna shorten the game a lot, and you're gonna have Drew air it out. It's going to be something it's going to be interesting to see on opening night. I do like the draft pick in Jerry Jeudy, but I just don't see it coming together on opening night for the Denver Broncos. I'm giving them a loss at home.
Wow, yeah, looks like we're on the same page for that one as well.
And you know what the messed up thing about Denver is I think it was yesterday or the day before, it was 93 degrees out. And today they had a blizzard advisory, and it was snowing, I want to say, around 1 p.m. local time out there. So who knows, man? It's 2020. You got blizzards in September in Denver following a heat wave. All bets are off, but you can take this to the bank. You can call it the lock of the week, the Pumas lock of the week, that the Tennessee Titans are going to win at Mile High, and I expect them to cover as well, too.
You know what would be the one thing that would keep me up and make me watch this game is if they had like a blizzard come through on Monday night. That'd be awesome. I'd watch that.
That would be sick.
Because one of the best things on the planet is
a snow game.
Football.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, listen, that about wraps up our week 1 preview. We're back with podcast number 58. It feels so good to be back into a NFL week, man. It's been a long, trying year. And like I said earlier, man, I've never needed the NFL more in my life, man.
I'm just glad to talk about football. I mean, Tara, my fiance, she kind of had to. She lost me until the end of football season, whether or not it's a full 16 games plus the playoffs or a COVID shortened year. But dude, it's good to be back. It's good to be talking X's and O's and actual football and not really a whole lot of off the field issues. And I'm excited to at least get week 1 underway, and it's great to be back.
Well, then Thursday night, kiss Tara goodbye until February.
Yeah, no shit. No shit, my man.
All right, man, you want to plug it up and we'll call it a day?
Yeah. So going to plug it up real quick. This episode of the Pro Football Radio Podcast, along with our previous ones, especially the Get Nuts episode with Mikey P, a.k.a. Frisco, a.k.a. Hammer Time. Am I missing any other nicknames? I feel like he's the Apollo Creed of the podcast. Am I missing anything?
So many names. I have no idea. I'm sure you are, but I'm sure he won't be offended.
You know, I think I got the big 3, so I'm okay. And if I'm not Mikey P, just at me and we'll go from there. But you can find this on Facebook and Instagram at Pro Football Radio Podcast, on Twitter at PFR Podcast. I'm on Twitter at Brando_Puma. Jay Chima is at Jay Chima on the Twitter machine. You can find these episodes on SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and like, subscribe, download, share with your friends, share with your family. Some people are going back to work. Some people are working from home. Have this on in the background. We'll be coming at you with more game breakdowns, a little bit of fantasy advice dabbled in between these game previews as well, too. And Jay, I know I said it already, but it's great to be back.
It's good to be back. Well, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. We will talk to you next week for week 2.
Yes, sir. And real quick, Freddie Soliotis, you're fired!
Oh, man, that never gets old.
Never gets old, man. I'm juiced.
All right, guys. See you next week.
Peace.